Have you ever looked perfectly fine on the outside while feeling like a storm is crashing inside your mind? That quiet weight pressing down on your chest, that heavy silence when no one is watching. You smile, nod, and keep going, but deep down it feels like something inside you is slowly breaking. That right there is the war most people never talk about. The silent battle between your thoughts, your emotions, and your will to keep moving forward. It doesn't matter how strong you look, how successful you appear, or how many people admire you. Stress and depression don't care who you are. They knock on every door, rich or poor, young or old. They don't shout, they whisper. And those whispers say things like, "Are you not enough? You're falling behind. You're all alone." And you start to believe them, not all at once, but slowly, day by day, until you start carrying a weight that nobody sees. But here's the truth they never taught you in school. What's happening in your mind is not a life sentence. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not powerless. You're simply human, and your mind is trying to tell you something. Stress isn't always the enemy. It's a signal, a message, a call to shift, a call to grow. But most people don't listen. They run from the pain. They bury it. They distract themselves with noise, scrolling, binge watching, pretending. But ignoring the fire never puts it out. It only lets it burn hotter, deeper. Now, I want to make you a promise. If you give your full attention, if you really listen, then by the end of this video, you won't just feel a little better. You'll understand how to take your power back. You'll gain something so rare, clarity, because what you're about to hear isn't just advice. It's a new lens, a new mindset, a new way of living where peace is no longer just a dream. It becomes a decision. Stress and depression grow in darkness. They thrive when we pretend. But when you bring them into the light, when you stop hiding and start facing them with courage, they lose their grip. That's what most people never do. They fight the symptoms, but not the source. They chase comfort, but not change. They wait for life to feel easier, not realizing that peace isn't found when things are perfect. Peace is created when your mind becomes stronger than your circumstances. There are people walking around every day who feel completely numb inside. They laugh with friends, go to work, hit the gym, but when they're alone, they feel empty. Why? Because they've forgotten how to listen to their own heart. They've ignored their truth for so long that their mind is now screaming for attention through stress, through anxiety, through burnout. But you don't have to live like that. You don't have to carry that pain forever. You don't have to pretend to be okay just to keep everyone else comfortable. You were never meant to break under pressure. You were built to rise through it. Every time you feel overwhelmed, it's not a sign that you're weak. It's a sign that your soul is ready for change. Your nervous system is alerting you, telling you something's out of alignment. And once you begin to listen to those signals, everything begins to shift. The power comes back. The fog begins to lift. You begin to see that the real enemy was never your situation. It was your silence, your self-judgment, your fear of being honest about how you truly feel. So ask yourself right now, what have I been carrying that's no longer mine to hold? What have I buried inside me that needs healing, not hiding? Because your healing begins the moment you stop running, the moment you stop labeling yourself as messed up and start seeing your pain as a part of your becoming. Growth is painful. Healing is uncomfortable. But staying stuck, that's far more exhausting than facing the truth. No one is coming to save you. And that's not a reason to fear. It's a reason to rise. Because once you realize that you have the power to change how you think, how you speak to yourself, how you respond to stress, then nothing outside of you can control your peace anymore. Not the job, not the bills, not the expectations. You become free, not by escaping life's problems, but by mastering your inner world. You're not too late. You're not too far gone. You're exactly where you need to be to begin again. Every champion you've ever admired has walked through darkness. Every strong soul has faced moments of doubt. But they kept walking, not because it was easy, but because they refused to let pain define them. And so can you, because your mind is not your enemy. It's your greatest ally once you learn how to lead it. So stay here, stay with this message, because what you learn next might just change how you live forever. You can't fix what you don't understand, and that's where most people go wrong. They try to fight stress with distraction. They try to beat depression with willpower alone. But the truth is, your brain isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to protect you. That tension in your chest, that spiral of overthinking, that deep emptiness, it's your mind crying out for help in the only language it knows. It's not weakness. It's a signal. It's your system saying, something's out of balance. Please pay attention. The problem is, we've been trained to ignore that voice. From a young age, we're told to a toughen up, to a push through, to a stop being dramatic. So we stuff down our emotions, bury our pain, and pretend everything's fine. And everything's fine. No, I not a mind. But emotions don't disappear. They store. They settle deep inside the body and the mind, and they show up later as stress, fatigue, anxiety, or depression. The brain is doing its job, trying to make sense of your world, trying to keep you safe. But when you ignore it for too long, it starts screaming through panic attacks, burnout, and emotional breakdowns. You don't heal by numbing your emotions. You heal by understanding them. You heal by giving yourself permission to feel what you feel without judgment. Judgment. When you stop labeling your thoughts as a body or a crazy and start seeing them as messengers, that's when the shift begins. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop drowning in thoughts and you begin to breathe again. Stress often comes from trying to control things you were never meant to control. Depression can grow from believing you have no control at all. But somewhere in the middle, there's a truth most people miss. You may not control every event, but you can always control your meaning, your mindset, your response. That's where freedom lies, not in perfection. In perspective, your brain is powerful, but it listens to what you repeat. If you constantly say, I can't do this, your mind will believe you. But if you say, I'm learning, I'm healing, I'm rising, it starts to believe that too. And that belief becomes the beginning of everything new. Change doesn't happen by accident. It happens by choice. And that choice starts with building the right habits. Small actions that may look simple on the surface, but carry deep power beneath. When your mind feels like it's spiraling, it's not about doing something big. It's about doing something small, something steady, something that brings you back to yourself. That's how you rewire your brain. Not overnight, but moment by moment. Start with your breath. It sounds too easy, but it's the most direct connection to your nervous system. Slow, deep breathing tells your body you're safe. It calms the panic. It quiets the chaos. And in that stillness, something amazing happens. Your thoughts start to slow down too. You begin to notice what you're thinking instead of being controlled by it. That's how awareness begins. And awareness is the root of all change. Another powerful shift comes from gratitude. Not just saying a thank you, but really feeling it. Training your brain to look for what's good even when things are hard. Because what you focus on grows. When you start to notice the small wins, the soft sunlight in the morning, the sound of laughter, the strength it took just to get out of bed, you slowly pull your mind out of survival mode and into possibility. Gratitude isn't just a feel-good practice. It rewires your brain for resilience. And then there's movement. Not for the body, but for the mind. When you move, walk, stretch, lift, dance, you interrupt the mental loops that keep you stuck. You create space. You release energy. You remind yourself that you're still here, still alive, still capable of more. You don't need to have it all figured out to begin. You just need to begin. The first step doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. When you start building these habits, even in the smallest way, you stop waiting for peace to find you, and you start creating it from within. Consistency beats intensity, and over time, those small acts become the foundation of a mind that no longer breaks under pressure, but grows through it. The moment you realize you have a choice, everything changes. You can choose how you show up. You can choose how you respond. You can choose whether you let pressure define you or refine you. Most people wait for life to get easier before they give themselves permission to feel peace. But strength isn't built when things are easy. It's built when things are hard, and you choose to keep going anyway. Pressure is not always the enemy. In fact, it's often the birthplace of purpose. Growth never feels like comfort. It feels like chaos before it feels like clarity. But here's the truth. The stress you're facing isn't always there to crush you. Sometimes it's there to carve out the parts of you that you don't need anymore. The overthinking, the fear of failure, the habit of doubting yourself. Pressure breaks what's weak so that what's strong can rise. You're not here just to survive your life. You're here to shape it. And that starts by taking ownership of your mindset. You can't always control what happens, but you can always control what it means. Every time you stop and say, I will not let this break me, you take your power back. Every time you breathe through the chaos instead of reacting to it, you rise a little higher. You train your brain to respond instead of explode, to lead instead of follow fear. The strongest people you see didn't avoid the fire. They walked through it. They fell, they cried, they doubted, but they got back up. Not because they were fearless, but because they made a decision to be bigger than the pain, a decision to become the kind of person who doesn't run from the storm, but stands in it and says, this will not define me. That's what real strength looks like. Not perfection, not pretending, just showing up over and over, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because when you choose power over pressure, you don't just survive stress, you transform through it. You are not here by accident. You've been through what you've been through for a reason. The pain, the setbacks, the silent battles, they weren't pointless. They were preparing you for something more, something deeper, something stronger. The world might see your past and call it broken. But strength doesn't grow in ease. It grows in struggle. And the fact that you're still here, still breathing, still trying, that alone makes you unstoppable. Most people wait their whole lives for someone to rescue them. For something to change, for a break, a sign, a miracle. But what if the miracle isn't something outside of you? What if the miracle is the moment you realize you already have what it takes? You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to decide that this moment right now is the one where everything begins to shift. No one else is coming to write your story. That pen is in your hands. And yes, the past may have chapters full of pain, doubt, and fear, but it doesn't have to end that way. You get to choose how the next page reads. You get to choose whether you stay stuck in the same thoughts or rise into something greater. You get to choose whether your story becomes a tragedy or a triumph. The truth is, there is a hero inside you, quiet, steady, waiting to rise. Not someone fearless, not someone perfect, but someone real. Someone who feels the weight and still stands up. Someone who gets knocked down and still finds a reason to believe again. That version of you already exists, and the moment you start showing up for yourself every single day is the moment that version begins to lead. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your strength. Your peace, your power, your purpose, they're not somewhere far away. They're already inside you, waiting to be claimed, waiting for you to believe. So stand tall, speak life, choose courage, because the life you're searching for doesn't begin when everything is perfect. It begins the moment you decide to rise.